youngsters ki actually there are a few things that I should share. I will share. Okay? There are only two most productive ecosystems in this world right now. Two most ecosystems producing two most producing ecosystems in this world. You know what are those two countries? Does anyone actually know these two countries? Not many people can tell. These two countries, I shouldn't say two countries, but two places I should say, because Hawaii is not a country, right? Hawaii is number one, and number two is Brazil. These are only two most productive ecosystems in the world right now. What does it mean? It means that every living creature, species, is available there. That's what it means. We are talking about 200 to 350 species are available in these two places. But they are also coming down. Why? From 90% of natural vegetation and 10% human population, now it's reversing to almost 50-50. That is very bad. In ecosystems like Hawaii and Brazil, we're talking about 50-50, that's very bad. That means we have really polluted our environment. And that's the main theme about this COP26, right? We have been deteriorating our climate on many aspects, agriculture, plantation, energy, etc., etc., etc. Now, I have been asked, and I took a lead in this session, and the primary purpose for me to take a lead in industry, energy, and climate change is to promote a goal. And what is this goal? To make renewable energy, especially solar, accessible to all. When I say all, it's not just the rich and affordable, it's even the poor people. It takes time, but I think it's possible. And we have seen the result. Now, my father used to say, we used to swim in tank bunds. Right? I'm not pretty sure a lot of people know what tank bund is. If you don't know, then I think you guys are really young. Okay? Or probably you don't see that side of the city. People used to say I used to drink directly from Gandipet. Now I think tank bund is probably threefold gone. Gandipet, because of recent rains, we are seeing some water in there. There are about unofficial 1.5 lakh borewells, right, that actually take away most of the Gandipet water. Unofficial. So don't record it and don't put it out there. It's unofficial there, and this is also unofficial. So a lot of things are hidden, which are causing to the climate disaster. So, if you go back, my grandfather used to say something. So my grandfather, my father, and me, and you guys are a lot younger than me. So imagine what you will see after 20 years from now if we don't take this step today. It will be even more bad. So all you youngsters, you said you are an architect, very good. You should start seriously focusing on what are the sustainable technologies and methods that you should adopt in buildings, right? Not just great architecture that we follow Western countries. All of you talked about, you said you're in 10th class, amazing to see a youngster like you coming. I think I'll encourage you. Whatever encouragement you want, you can talk to me, okay? Best wishes. And a lot of people, right? City College and different government colleges. It's nice, all of you are here. There's a lot you can do, right? My father said, lakes have been taken away by government, right? I am also witness to tank bund. I am also witness to some lakes which I saw before going to the US long time back. But after coming back from the US, I don't see those lakes anymore. They have been encroached. No government person is serious about land encroachment, I should say lake encroachment, and that's the pity part. Now what is it? I'm an energy guy, I'm talking about other things but energy. Well, everything is related. Right? What should I talk about energy? Energy, if you look at coal point of view, right? It is very, very dirty. So dirty, not only you become black, but coal burning itself is dirty. And Indian coal is the most dirty than all across the world. Right? That's why we import it from Australia, because it's cleaner coal, cleaner, not clean. But because of recent problems over the coal price, etc., we are having this kind of price escalation. Right? So if you look at overall, we have to get away from coal. 20 years ago, there was one article I have read. They said coal is 20. Now you read articles saying that we have coal only for 30 years more. We don't know. I think after 15 years, they might say something else. But coal is not the solution for our energy demands. I think it's the only renewable energy. That's what I say. It could be solar, it could be hydrogen, it could be whatever it is. So going forward, there will be many renewable energy sources, right? Wind, solar, hydrogen, hydro, biogas, etc., etc. Right. So one individual renewable energy will not dominate anymore. It has to be integration of all. And technology will come where you can integrate all these technologies, where you can supply power during daytime and during night time. I think that day will come. We are not far away. We are talking about probably max within 3 to 5 years. Until then, solar will rule. Why solar will rule? Solar is the most advanced technology or most adopted technology in the country, because it is scalable. Scalable meaning you can put it anywhere you want. You can take it to your home, you can put it on your home, you can put it on any building, and then you can go to any far distance and put it out there as long as sun is there. It is the most scalable technology available. Whereas wind technology is like you have to be very specific. Wherever the wind is there, you have to put. That's why solar is the most accepted technology and most famous. But very soon you will see a lot more renewable energies, and I think probably in 10 years you will see hydrogen becoming very famous as well. So the future is integration of technologies. What I would propose to the session is activists may not understand industry problems. Right? Industries may not understand their mindset. If we don't come together, then there will be friction. What I would like to do is, I come from industry. I would like to work with eminent activists and CSOs, right, and policy makers, and bring it and take it to the industry and say this is what they propose, and we should all sit together and come up with a workable method or a workable policy for all of us. Because sometimes policy is so hard for industry, it's difficult to accept. They may be right, but it's difficult to accept, but the change is difficult. Change cannot happen like this. It has to be very methodological. It should be slow so that it can be accepted. And I will be a proponent of that, I'll be an advocate of that, I'll be actually be an interface to the industry, and that's my promise as far as renewable energy is concerned. Thank you.
We are all fighting about the climate change, fighting. So because we have only habitat, the only habitat we have is the earth. So everything and anything is a habitat, because we should know that. And we are the floating bubbles in the ocean of energy, and that energy is filled, and the only energy we know is this earth we have. So that is the concept about the habitat, because you all should know. Habitat means not only just your house. Habitat is everything for all the creatures, millions of species, and it is linked with everything and anything. Like biodiversity, you say. Biodiversity is about the habitat to other species, so that is most important. And we are talking about affordable housing. We are talking about so many things. And any infrastructure development we are talking about, it is destroying and destructing the habitats of millions of species. So only for benefiting one species, which is a human being, because we are talking about habitat for humanity, but we are behaving very inhuman. Because humanity is not just for human beings, humanity is like a livability. We are talking about livable cities and communities, but not just for the human beings, it should be for the every creature on the earth. That is a biodiversity. Without a biodiversity, we will not exist. So we are facing the sixth mass extinction. We can see, so many people express that the counting of the species is coming down. So when the cycle changes, automatically our lifetime will change, will perish. Though we have 4 billion years of, 400 billion years of the life of the earth life will not come down. Our existence will go down because the earth will be there another, 50% earth life is gone, but it will still remain for another 4 billion years. But we will perish. That is the habitat we are talking about. And there are 4 speakers we have on that day. One is Professor Suchit Reddy from Kids Warangal, and Professor Shailaja from SVCA, Professor Samda from SVCA, and Mr. Rajneesh Sharan from CSC, Center for Science and Environment, New Delhi, and is the program director, and these 3 are the professors. And at the end we have Professor Kamini from SVCA, she is the principal. And she also proposed to have an exchange MOU between the SVCA, the College of Sri Venkateswara College of Agriculture and the center. That's a good sign because they wanted to develop, with our help, they wanted to develop some course material for the benefit of the students, architects especially, because architects are the inceptors of the habitat. So they are the one who make or break the system of habitancy, because the climate always connected with the developments, because construction is the most harmful for the society if we build in a way that is not helpful for the climate adaptation or climate mitigation. So the concept which they develop is supposed to be a human the environment friendly or biodiversity friendly, or we should observe the carbon and all. So 40% of the carbon emission is from the construction activities, but 40% of the employment, 40% of the economy also generated from the construction activities. So it is linked with the development as well as the degradation. So there should be a balance between the construction and the environmental protection. That's what Dr. Suchit Reddy spoke about. So it is how best suitable methods we use to control the waste, and control the energy efficient building, develop the energy efficient buildings and use less energy buildings and all. That's most important. And other 2 speakers from SPS spoke about how to control the CO2 while planning stage as well as construction and operation and demolition stage as well, because that is most important. Even the waste which produced from the construction industry will be affecting like landfills, because it is not the construction itself, it is the destruction, it is the waste coming from the construction industry is filling the lands, which is making a disadvantage. When you take a city, when you take any city 20 kilometers away from the city, from the development till 20 kilometers is desertizing. So that is affecting on the agriculture as well as the biodiversity. So that is most effective. So how to control the waste, how to use the waste material in the construction, designing process as well as the construction is most important. That's what they spoke about. So basically, we have only one earth. So the future generation will question us what damage. So they only calculate the damages we done. They never see the development as a development. The development is as a destruction. That is what it is causing. So we must think about how less destruction. So let us not talk about the development. Let us talk about the how less we destruct instead of how best we develop. Because every development we are talking about destruction. So let us talk about how less we destruct. So in a constructive way, when we say how less we destruct is the theme for today, the present situation. So we have to think the damages which we are making, how to reduce the damages in the name of construction, in the name of development, in the name of many infrastructure developments. It's not just a building. Habitat is, we are talking about building, but habitats are so much involved in it, you know. So destroying your rocks, destroying your forest, destroying everything which is destroying the environment, which is habitat. So habitats are there in the air, in the water, and on the in the ground and above the ground. Every element in the tree, above the tree, you know, in the atmosphere also, it is a habitat for everything. So when you disturb something, it disturbs the whole process, whole life cycle. So which will have effect. So we are talking about CO2, we are talking about the accountability and all, but it is most destructive. So anyhow, so solution-based thinking is most important now. So we have to think about controlling the waste, managing the waste, reuse, recycle, and you know, those are the things we should. And while planning, the architect should also consider the biodiversity experts, and we should also study the local geography and local available species and local available plants and other things to be considered, because architects always bring something new from different places. Actually they plant, and that will also have a destruction on the local environment, because you know that the Priscilla always says about planting the tree where it is supposed to be. You know? So you have to have local understanding. The architect should have the local understanding of the material. So the material which you bring from far place will also have effect on the transportation. It will also emits CO2, and it will not integrate with the local material. So that is called heterogeneous. Where a material is homogeneous, it will degrade into the soil. But when you bring something heterogeneous, it will take millions of years to integrate with the local soil. So it is important to study the local available material which is used in the construction. That is what it is supposed to be studied. So that's what experts expressed, and we, always the architects, you know, in the forefront, the design, the engineers, they should also consider what is sustainable. Sustainable is not, you know, living forever, or you know, building a building forever. Even a building, when you build for one generation, that is enough. The next generation can go for a different building, and a building should be deteriorated into the ground. That is the sustainability. Sustainability is not for, you know, living forever or building a building forever. So if you study some of the countries, the building they build is for 3 generations. There is a 3-story building. The first ground floor will be for the old people because they cannot climb, and the second floor you have the family, you know, those who live there, and the third floor will be for the children, and the roof will be for drying of the glass. So when a generation goes, then they will come down, the next generation will come down, and the children will go up. So that's how a cycle of, they are called lifetime homes. So those lifetime homes concepts are there in many countries, but no, unfortunately it's not in India, because we are living in nucleus families, only wife and husband, and the children they will send out, or the children will send the family, the fathers and mother out. So that's how the society. So the societal, the thought process should change, because they should also have the humanity means humanity within the family, humanity in the society, and humanity in other creatures. That is most important to be considered in the design aspects. Not a best building, not a tall building, not, you know, the deep building, not a wide building. It is about how human it is, how eco-friendly it is, how the sustainable it is in the sense of biodiversity. That's what needs to be looked into. Okay. So all speakers spoke well, and I received well. Thank you very much.
I request Dr. T. Prabhakar Reddy, who was moderating some sessions, to introduce briefly about himself and return later. The 2 sessions you continue one after another, sir. First is climate finance, another is the role of local government and climate change. So maybe 15 minutes is okay. Okay, sir. Otherwise, for some lunch.
We were putting an effort to roping journalists like Balaji, Sainath, or Barahat, but incidentally they said initially okay, and later they were not available. Then we went for an alternate, but incidentally that personality emerged as a good and more relevant person to that session. On that day, Jayanta Ghoshal is a Bengali journalist. For the last 35 years he is in journalism. And incidentally, he was there at Paris in 2015 when session was there. And in the latest COP26 also, in the initial 4 days, he was there at Glasgow and returned. So he made beautiful observations that how nations are not giving much focus to the real issues where they are supposed to put focus, but focus has been diverted. Beautiful inputs he was sharing with the audience. I don't know how many of you took part into that session on that day, but it went off well with four other potential speakers from different experience backgrounds like Uma Sudhir of NDTV, Rakesh Dubur of Factly, who is working for the transparency and especially in this fake era, the real source of information where it can be retrieved and how it can be utilized. And that Factly initiation also a good initiation as far as data mining is concerned. And apart from the Udula Sudhakar Reddy, who is investigative head of Times of India, he was also there. Narsana was also taking part on the day. And Professor Purushottam Reddy gave a good housing for all of us how deliberation should go. They said that repeatedly it is happening again and again that media is not discharging its real duty, what it is supposed to do as per its the main principal aim of media is supposed to do that informing, educating, entertaining and motivating these other four primary duties of the media. But incidentally, in certain cases where but its commission and omission is not doing that. That has been beautifully explained by all the speakers, saying that how over a period of time the degradation in professional efficiency and focus and non-focus, how they are missing that element supposed to do, and interpreting into the local happenings like climate is such a subject with a lot of complexity. It has to go into the people at large section where they can understand how they can, as an individual, can relate with the subject of climate change and what sort of role I can do as a group of people, the civil society, what it has to do to motivate them in that line. What media has to do a journalistic role, that element is missing over a period of time. That is visible evidence here, even in this summit also. That was discussed well. And they also said that how media, because of its proprietary coming into the area of content and proprietary intervention into that, and proprietary becoming put into the hands of corporates by the political system, that's also giving advanced impact of its real purpose, what's supposed to do. These are where that is the discussion. That was also all along the discussion and said it went well like a live wire. It was with all potential speakers, and that the Kota Nilima also, who did many degrees from JNU, Delhi University, and later Washington. She representing India for different causes of the society for various reasons with her valuable inputs with the research study. She is representing in international forums also. What is the scenario prevailing in the country? She also made a beautiful observations. And I would like to bring some takeaways from that particular deliberation. DMS by and the visit of NIT. In these 15 days, another development took place here at the center. In the process of going with NIT, we invited the delegation from NIT of Varangal and the director and 5 other deans, 6 other deans were here. Basing on their sharing of certain feelings and also these 5-6 potential speakers on the day of media communication, thematic emerged certain things. I would like to make 1, 2, 3 proposals. I would beg for attention, Director అయితే three things I would like to propose. This 13 days deliberations, we took much initiation, especially we have to thank both Professor Purushottam Reddy garu and Professor Narasimha Reddy garu, because he put a lot of effort into that, and he did beautiful section of the happenings of Glasgow every day, and that also he documented for the purpose of media. Every day was released. Again, a pathetic response from the media here. I would like to say, no hesitation. My 33 years of media experience, but I don't try to say the truth is that media is nowadays not paying any attention to the issues, core issues, which is impacting the huge population worldwide. That the media is least bothered about those all findings of this section what we did from CGR and etc. That he documented those 13 days happenings. I propose to bring out a beautiful book of all 13 days, what happened at law, what's supposed to happen, but incidentally what happened. That is one component. And second thing, every day what we did thematic discussions by involving many experts, like with having vast experience and their different different perspective towards to certain issue. ఇప్పుడు మనం చాలాసార్లు ఎక్స్పర్ట్ అంటే ఆ రంగంలో ఎక్స్పర్ట్స్ కోసం ట్రై చేస్తాం. నేను దట్ ఈస్ మై లాస్ట్ మినిట్ స్పాట్ దట్ Narsana should be there in that media, because he will have a beautiful overview from outside rather than the journalist. సో అట్లా బయట నుంచి కూడా చూసే వాళ్ళ యొక్క పర్స్పెక్టివ్స్ డిఫరెంట్ ఉంటాయి కనుక మన 30 days thematic discussions కూడా incorporate చేస్తూ we should come out with a beautiful book. That is my one draft. And the second proposal is that after interaction with those NIT people and by these all 5-6 speakers on that day, sir, you are also for the entire 3 hours from 2 o'clock to 5 o'clock. We would choose how potential they express certain lacunas in media side, and especially for the individual journalists. Uma Sudhi was telling that localize cheyadamu, local impacts to be interpreted cheyadamu, chesi global such immediate training is required to journalists. So this as a center for excellence of knowledge, if we consider as a center, we can do a small training course for journalists.
Sure.
That is my second proposal. And third proposal, with this experience of 13-15 years, I would like to, hereafter, whatever the activity we are taking, whether a small event or a big event or a marathon event which runs for the days together, but at the end, while giving a press note to the media or making a document that for our data storage, we must give a paragraph what civil society can do for that situation, what individual can do. For every, by default, for every event what present CGR we are taking, we should record it, what individuals can do, what as a civil society can do in that over a period of time that will become a valuable input. But and also anyhow we will give every time for the media release. Let the media wisdom prevail to disseminate that sort of information again into the public domain. We pray that. But these are the 3-4 takeaways and way forward that I would like to share with this August gathering. Thank you. Thank you.
The vast experience and biodiversity and wildlife. And we had Dr. Farida Tambal from World Wildlife Fund. She is the state director. She spoke on biodiversity and the indexes and vital signs, what is happening to the natural world and what is the implications and interactions between these two regimes. And we had it was started by Dr. Abdul Halim Khan, Ahmad Halim Khan. He is from Telangana University. He is from Botany Department. he presented empirical research outcome in his presentation on what is the impacts of biodiversity, climate change on the food production and plant growth and plant metabolism. So he said that there will be a lot of implications by the rising temperatures. So he urged and he stressed and reiterated that we should all work to contain climate change. Otherwise, the world food production will be hampered and impacted. So that was one key presentation, scientific presentation. And subsequently, Farida Tampal, she largely took the excerpt from they publish a Living Planet report every periodically, 2 years once, and she brought out the vital signs what is happening around the world and in the terms of biodiversity. One thing is vertebrate biodiversity is clearly recorded, the extinction of vertebrate biodiversity. And she said that we don't know what is happening to the invertebrates, like means 50 lakh insects are there, 50 species of insects, what is happening to them, and we don't know to the soil biodiversity what is happening. So she said that we should have a new deal of development, new deal of living, new deal of culture, new deal of interaction with the world of natural world. So she also presented some action points for the students, youth and elders, like saving resources and having a symbiotic relationship with the background ecosystems, kind of a presentation she gave. And then we have here Dr. Nagaraju sir. Nagaraju sir not outside, and he is from City College, Government City College. He mentioned about our culture. Indian culture was always symbolic to the coexistence and resilience to the nature. We should live and we should recognize that, and we should live again with that conscious, traditional, time-tested wisdom. So he made a big presentation on how the Indian values were conserving the nature. And he said the youth and children and all of us should follow that ancient wisdom and sustain our natural resources and to contain global warming. And finally, keynote address was given by Dr. Tulsirao sir. It's difficult for me to sum up because it was very beautiful and it was a vast presentation. It was very complex. That he mentioned that to come to the net zero kind of a targets, the complex and integrated process should be followed by the people, countries, and scientific communities and the policy makers. I request sir to speak. Okay. So, sir said that conserving biodiversity and changing our lifestyles and ecosystems conservation and expanding the ecosystems beyond the notified areas, protected areas, and protection of the resources everywhere, in every continent and every country and every region, all the ecosystems, world ecosystems is important, essential, and it should be a kind of what kind of integrated work needed all over the world. So sir mentioned. Beyond that also sir mentioned restorative ecology and conservation holic mindset should be restored in the people. Also sir mentioned. And actually 50 people participated in the Zoom webinar, and random because people were floating, that's why 100 people should have visited that webinar. And YouTube, I don't know, I will check out with the people. Maybe a few hundred people might have visited this YouTube. 200 people visited the YouTube. These are the statistics of the conference. And Farida Tampal said she would come here and she would work on the biodiversity and climate change kind of education program. And Dr. Nagaraj sir said he would work with the City College and CGR should work together. He extended his support for all this kind of thing. And Abdul Halim Khan sir said he will share all his research and kind of a stream work to the CGR. to educate people. Thank you, sir. This is the basic synopsis of that program. Thank you. Thank you.
Which has caused the climate change. Currently, when we are talking of green revolution, pink revolution, white revolution, series of revolution. I don't know if you know. Green revolution is about agriculture, hybrid seeds, chemical fertilizers, other pesticides, and then you have a crop. They say your yield will increase. Pink revolution is about meat. So raising the livestock, rearing livestock and cut them, eat them as meat. White revolution, of course, milk. Again, in milk, we are seeing cows which are hybridized, they are artificially inseminated, and then the milk, the kind of milk which is collected, the way it is distributed. Even that is also impacting on the environment. And blue revolution, of course, it is about fish, prawns, whatever is coming from water. So these are the names which are being given for the entire range of technologies which are based on external inputs. So it is not internal inputs which are coming. Which is being pushed through COP26 is plant-based diet. Now this plant-based diet looks very acceptable for all of us because people who are worried about poultry, chicken, people who are worried about meat, where large scale deforestation is happening in Brazil and other countries, and that meat, the way it is processed, even pork. So all this together is causing methane emissions as well. So methane emissions from the manure, from various activities related to this modern agriculture. So now they are saying plant-based diet. So it's better to eat food coming from plants. It looks very good and I think it's acceptable. But inherently under that plant-based diet, what they are saying is they want to develop a cell culture which produces meat using the plant cells. So this is gene editing and genetical modification and leading to meat production. So cultured meat, that's what is being talked about. Already US has, there is a small market for cultured meat. So the solutions like this are being pushed through plant-based diet. So we think we need to unpack whatever is coming from these corporates and developed nations, because when they give a slogan, we can't take that slogan at the face value. So we need to synthesize, analyze, and dissect and see what is that they are doing. Otherwise, agriculture keeps on moving in the same direction of exploiting nature, extracting from nature, and then saying yield is the only answer, increasing the yields continuously. So this is the presentation I looked at in detail.
Sir, sorry to interrupt. What is the end product in this gene culture?
Different product. One is meat.
How is that?
They take cells, plant cells, in a lab they culture it.
Tissue culture, similar to tissue culture.
Tissue culture or something more. And then they develop meat out of it. So they say this is livestock meat, cultured meat.
Okay.
So this is good.
So
Because
they
it is,
present the protein part.
and it is also non-violent, ahimsa meat. This kind of. But what happens with the cultured meat and when it becomes wider when it becomes popular, what is the impact? Because you are not eating food which is given by nature. That food is coming from labs. So what are these labs going to do? I think all sorts of issues are there. Apart from the concern about food security. Now, inherent in food security is we have to produce our own food. Someone is producing the food and we are eating that means it is a business transaction. It involves cost, it involves environmental impact. So, how to avoid that and produce our own food is the sustainable solution which is being talked about people like us. So, but at COP26, they are talking the same language, but then the solution which they want to bring is something which is the extension of the current extractive agriculture. So that's why I think we need to go beyond, understand what is happening. Secondly, there is carbon offset trading is being pushed by developed nations using agriculture. So they are saying plantations, huge plantations, they could be for biofuels or they could be for any other products. So the plantations are being used as an offset for carbon emissions which are happening in developed countries. So, for example, X company, they produce some product, some car in US. So there are calculations about the emissions which will happen from that industry. So this company will buy, so much extent of emission. They say we will invest in a plantation in some other country. So they are saying because I am emitting here 10 tons of carbon dioxide, I am raising trees here in thousands of acres and this will offset this emission. So this is what carbon dioxide trading is called. So that means they are going to monetize the nature services. So if you are planting a tree here and that plant will be, they will value it and say, okay, I will give you this money, you plant that tree. So this transactional transition is being pushed as one of the solutions and agriculture is being used for that. So there are various aspects to it. So in this webinar we had this discussion on that. And of course Venkateswara Raitu Nesham, he has been encouraging lot of natural farmers. So this natural farming means 3-4 things. One, knowledge of farming. Today currently, if you look at the modern agriculture or modern farm, half or more than half of the farmers, they don't have knowledge about what they are doing, how to do agriculture. It looks very surprising, but you can go and talk to them. So whenever they see a pest on a leaf on their crop, they immediately rush to the local pesticide shop and say, okay, this is the insect which has come, I am worried. So that guy says, okay, take this pesticide, go and spray it, and even they will tell you how much it has to be sprayed. And who is that guy? He is only a salesman in a pesticide shop. Maybe he has never seen a farm as well. So that kind of knowledge loss is being protested through natural farming. So you can go to any natural farmer. The confidence of the natural farmer in understanding their farm, I think that is tremendous. So they have control over the water, they have control over the farm, harvest, and also what to do, when to do, and how to do. So this kind of change, I think this transition is about independence, it is about sovereignty. People have to be free from someone pushing down the knowledge, someone pushing down the technology. So ఈ అంటే ఒక స్వతంత్ర వ్యవహారం చేసే పరిస్థితికి రైతు ప్రకృతి సేద్యం చేసిన నాడే వస్తుంది. అది రావాలంటే ప్రకృతి సేద్యం చేయాలి. మరి ఇలా నష్టం వస్తుందా అని చర్చలు జరుగుతుంది. నష్టం వచ్చినా కూడా స్వతంత్రంగా చేసినప్పుడు అది మన కొరకు చేసుకుంటాం కాబట్టి అది నష్టం కూడా కాదు. కానీ లెక్కలు కడతారు, నువ్వు ఇట్లా చేస్తే అక్కడ నష్టం వస్తుంది, వీటి చేస్తే నీకు తెలియదు, నాకు తెలుసు, సైంటిస్టులకు తెలుసు, ఇవన్నీ ఆర్గ్యుమెంట్ చెప్తాం. నష్టం రాదు, వచ్చినా కూడా భరించవచ్చు, అది పెద్ద కష్టం కాదు. ఎందుకంటే అక్కడ పెట్టుబడి లేదు, ప్రకృతి పెట్టుబడి. ప్రకృతితో మనం కలిసి పనిచేస్తున్నప్పుడు ప్రకృతి నుంచి వస్తుంది. దానికి ప్రకృతి నువ్వు నాకు ఎంత ఇచ్చినావు, నీకు ఎన్ని పైసలు ఇవ్వాలా, ఇంత నష్టం అనేది అట్లాంటి ట్రాన్సాక్షనల్ రిలేషన్షిప్ లేదు. సో ఆ ప్రకృతి సేద్యము COP26లో డిస్కషన్ చేయాల్సింది కానీ చేయలేదు. కానీ అది సొల్యూషన్ అది. కాబట్టి ఆ వెబినార్ యొక్క ఉద్దేశం కూడా మన దగ్గర పరిష్కారం ఉంది. COP26, the overall approach of COP26 right from COP1 in 1995 and to latest COP26. The whole effort is climate change is happening, environment destruction is happening, the change, the technology, the transition, knowledge is available with them and we have to break from them. This is the approach, overall approach. That is being contested through natural farming. So agriculture, whatever emissions are happening in agriculture, whatever problems are happening in agriculture, the solutions are not with them, with us. Solutions are not with the global north. The solutions are with people, common people like natural farmers. All over Telangana, Andhra Pradesh, India, Asia, Bangladesh, Nepal, there are many farmers. Almost 50-60% is still natural farming. So I think we have to celebrate that, we have to encourage them, we have to facilitate them. We need public policies which can support them. I think that will bring us towards nature and decrease the climate change impact. Now the other aspect, I know it's not there. Okay,
One more minute.
okay, I'll just say that and stop it. The other aspect is today our food does not have nutrients in the food. Now the lack of nutrition on the food is not because of climate change, it is because of man-made agriculture. It is because of green revolution. So I think when we want to increase the nutrition, it's not done by genetic modification. It is not done by gene editing. It is not done by CRISPR. It is done by soil. It is done by native varieties. Only then we will get it. But today in India, it is being pushed by 5 multinationals. They are pushing food fortification. Food fortification అంటే మన తినే ఆహారంలో పోషకాలు లేవని ఆర్టిఫిషియల్గా ఒక 5 కంపెనీలు మాత్రమే సింథటిక్ విటమిన్స్ ఉత్పత్తి చేస్తే వాటిని కొనుక్కొచ్చి ఇక్కడ మన ఆహారంలో కలిపి మీకు ఇస్తే మీరు ఆరోగ్యంగా ఉంటారని ప్రభుత్వం చెప్తుంది. సో ఆయిల్లో ఫుడ్ ఫార్టిఫికేషన్ ఎప్పుడో వచ్చింది. సాల్ట్లో మనం చూసాం అయోడిన్, మన గోధుమల్లో పెట్టుకుంటారు, ఇప్పుడు రైస్లో వస్తుంది ఫుడ్ ఫార్టిఫికేషన్. అండ్ బిహైండ్ ఆల్ దిస్ ఇస్ 5 కంపెనీస్ అండ్ బిల్ గేట్స్ అండ్ మెలిండా ఫౌండేషన్. So the biggest scourge of world agriculture and in India is Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation and Bill Gates. So whenever you hear or read about Bill Gates, you can be assured that he is doing something destructive, something against nature. So in the aspect of it, none we blame this now, but we have done enough work on what is happening, so we know clearly. So Bill Gates was in Hyderabad, if you know. Bill Gates was secretly came to ICRISAT almost 10 years back. So I don't know, media did not cover it. But then why did it come? It is about accessing the native varieties which are there in ICRISAT, native seed varieties. So I have a better story in a time. So basically, I think that webinar discussed all these aspects, and unfortunately COP26 did not discuss all these things, and that was our effort to increase the agenda of discussion on agriculture. Thank you.
About 25 minutes, sir.
Thank you, Cyrus. CSO stands for Civil Society Organization, also known as NGOs. Okay. Swachhanda Samstha like CGR, Janaseva and other organizations. So this theme was conceived for a particular reason. CSOs are selfless. Okay, they are self-motivated. They don't need anything to drive them. They are self-driving. CSOs, normally there is one or two, a few people behind every CSO. So they are already involved people. They want to do something for the society. Right? So it was very important for us to bring together various CSOs who have been working in this area of climate change, directly or indirectly. Okay. So this was attended by, speakers in that were Maruti Garu from Robin Hood Army, Pramila Malhotra from Sai Sanctuary, Captain Karnaka Reddy from Janaseva, Karnaka Reddy from Walk for Water, GPK Rao of Pragati Group, and Brigadier Ganesh from Bombay So I'll just quickly summarize 2 or 3 important points what they talked about, each of them, because they have a lifetime of contribution, each of these people. And then also talk about the action items. We are here to discuss what is the way forward. Next steps ఏంటి అని మాట్లాడుకోవడానికి మనం కలుస్తున్నాం ఇక్కడ. కాబట్టి so that we'll summarize that way. So Robin and Army, you all are aware of that. They do a lot of service, especially in the area of food security. So whatever food is being wasted, parties, functions, bakeries, restaurants, వాళ్ళు ఆ ఇన్ఫర్మేషన్ తీసుకొని ఆ ఫుడ్ కలెక్ట్ చేసుకొని they give it to the needy. So they have served millions of people. Millions. Okay, so they have done a wonderful job. They are also doing something in the schools for the meals for children. So they are very much concerned about wastage of water, because especially rice, wheat, all these foods what we are presently eating, let's say wheat consumes 10,000 liters of water per kg. Many people are not aware of this. So
without make it fine, I think, reforming.
So they are planning to introduce millets for children in schools. Instead of rice, they will introduce millets. Millets consume literally no water. At the same time, they replenish the soil. So this is his summary. He wants to work with us, and he is also going to talk briefly in the afternoon. Then Pamela Malhotra, she is a US citizen. She is married to one of the Indian environmentalists, and she settled in Karnataka. So they have developed a sanctuary, a private sanctuary, 300 plus acres of plantation they have done, and today it's become a forest. Okay, so it's they have
reconstructed the forest, and they have also fought against timber and poaching mafia. Okay, why are we losing our forests? It's mainly because there's a big mafia. So it's a big challenge. It's not as green as it appears to be. So they have done that. They have gone to the courts. They have gone to NGT and brought about changes in rules which allow cutting of trees. And then they have stopped the dam from being constructed in one forest area. They have stopped the railway line to go from a forest area. They are now recognized by the government of India and also the United Nations. So this is a summary of them. So she has a lot of energy at her age, and she wants to associate with us in this network, and whatever she can contribute, she will contribute. So Captain Karnakar Reddy, he, apart from being a trustee of Dharma Seva, he also has initiated along with his family members 2 Vipassana International Meditation Centers, one in Vellax and one in Islamabad. They have donated their ancestral property for construction of Vipassana Meditation Centers. And thousands of people were encouraged to do this kind of a meditation. We'll discuss in the next theme why it is important. Similarly, Karnakar Reddy from Walk for Water. Again, he has had the opportunity to work with Dr. Abdul Kalam Garu, and he has imbibed his values. He has selflessly done a lot of work in the area of water, educating the rural masses. He's done campaigns, made potable drinking water at affordable cost to the rural people. Then he has undertaken some Green India Challenge, which is a large mass plantation drive. He has worked on rainwater harvesting. He is also very interested to join our network and be associated. G.B. Karawara, we know him very well from the Pragati group. He also offered, he has planted more than 47 lakh herbal trees, used organic methods, and biodiversity is a plus in his, wherever he has done his work. And he has got a Vedic knowledge from our scriptures. A lot of Indian science which we have to recognize. Now, the world is at this stage because we have left our own Indian scriptures, our own science, and we are moving to the Western. So this is one man who for the Vedic knowledge in schools. So he wants to do his bit, whatever way we are coming up with that framework. So he wants to do it as per the framework he wants to work with. So the summary of this theme is that CSOs have a major role to play in the upcoming in the climate action. So the takeaway point from this is that we have many similar CSOs. These are not the only people, these are the speakers who participated, but there are so many of them which we have to, because we have taken the lead. So we have to make a network of these CSOs and bring them all together on a common platform. So it can be something like another entity formed, which is something like a climate action alliance, because we are all individual entities. We don't have anything binding, right? Each of us is a different NGO. So how do we have a common goal? How do we have a common vision and objectives? So for that, I suggest that we have a framework as well as an entity under which we all work together. And that will have, then they will be more responsible towards the common objectives. And then we have to come up with modules, let's say, as Narasimha Reddy just said about agriculture. So farmer, let's say we are engaging a farmer, we have to have a kind of a module or an activity for them. Similarly for students, we need to have a module and an activity based on which they will be able to engage them. So these are all the points that that can be the action items. And funding is another aspect that we have to look at for this because it's a capital intensive effort as we go along. So with this, I would like to summarize CSO's aspect. So any questions on this or suggestions? Welcome to service. How do we do the discussion?
We will have later after lunch, we will have open discussion.
The Brigadier Ganesh, sorry, I forgot to mention. He also talked about the agriculture side and the engagement from the farmers and engaging even the bureaucrats and other government missionaries to be part of this. The other theme that we have conducted is spirituality, health and climate change. So how is spirituality, health and how are they linked to climate change? Right? So that's a very interesting thought. So basically anything that happens in the external world of a major nature, it's a seed in the thought process of one individual. Okay. This webinar, how did it happen? It's a seed in the thought of an individual, so powerful that it could influence so many of us and so many other people who are not present, right? We have seen some negative incidents like bombing of the World Trade Center in US. It's a seed in the thought of a negative mind. It was so powerful, he could inspire other negative-minded people to do that kind of a job, which created so much fear in the minds of people. Right? Anna Hazare, he did a movement for anti-corruption. The thought in his mind, how did it become a movement which the entire country, crores of people got into it. So this is something that we have to think about. So spirituality has that power. So a person who is evolved spiritually will have that benevolence to serve the mankind and environment. The pure thinker will naturally get that. So the more pure thinkers we have, the more people we have who can be part of this climate action, right? So that's how spirituality is connected to this, pretty much. Then how about health? So health, again, healthy people naturally tend to be in line with nature, benevolent to nature, right? So that's another aspect. And how do we become healthy? By eating, by taking inputs from Panchabhutas. Okay, it's not just food, it's also about the elements of nature, right? So food, when it comes to food, again, the most healthiest foods if we are looking at, like the millets or the fruits or the vegetables, they have very little load on the environment. That is how that is connected to climate change. Okay, so we had very good speakers in this, and we had the graceful presence of Justice B. Vijay Sen Reddy Garu, Honorable Justice of High Court, for this event. So he has given his views. So what he said, India as a country has a significant role to play. We are a spiritual land. Okay, we have been practicing everything that is favorable to nature for centuries. It was only in the last 1 or 2 centuries that things have got disturbed. So we have to get back to that. Here he equated nature to God. He asked us to treat rivers, water bodies, everything. He took like God, like living beings. He said that we must protect our river bodies. For younger generations, there is a significant role to play. Okay. And then he also talked briefly about the laws that are prevalent, like the WALTA, the land revenue, and other acts which are there. He asked us to approach the judiciary for issues which are related to climate change. If somebody is abusing nature, like there's somebody is misusing, polluting the environment or polluting water bodies, he asked us to approach judiciary. Then the next speaker was Dr. Kadavalli. Most of us know him, very popular, known as the millets man. Promotes the millets a lot, though he is also a very spiritual person with a lot of knowledge on our Indian scriptures and Bhagavad Gita. What he said is that the current culture, the industrial food culture, is the culprit for what is happening now. So we have to work on that. We have to bring back our own culture. So he said that 1 kg of sugar consumes 20,000 liters of water per kg. So instead, if we go for something like palm jaggery or an alternate sweetener, if at all is required, then we are saving a lot of water. Similarly, 1 kg is 10,000 liters of water. So that kind of suggestions he has given. And millets, obviously, for health reasons as well as for climate perspective, from climate perspective, we just suggested that. And he talked about minimalistic living. Live as if you don't exist. That's what he has suggested. Then after that we had Swami Shittikantananda ji from Ramakrishna Math. He again spoke of the spirituality. He discussed about Sattvic way of living. What is Sattvic way of living? Sattvic way of living is opposite of getting indulged into anything that is addictive. Sattvic way of living is a minimalistic way of living. Eating live, real, vegetarian, plant-based nutrition. Okay, and it's a lifestyle. It's not just about food. It's also living in tune with Mother Nature, getting sunlight, getting exposed to being outdoors. A lot of things that are related to this lifestyle. Meditation is again one way to move closer to the nature. And the real happiness, he concluded by saying that the real happiness is Sattvic way of living. Then after this we had a speaker from Natural Lifestyle. Natural Lifestyle again, by the way, all these people who spoke in this session, in this theme, have lakhs of followers. They are already change makers. Okay. So they have agreed, they have pledged their support for what we are doing. So it is up to us how we create that framework and the ecosystem for all of us to work together. So Natural Lifestyle, Acharya Mohan Gupta ji and Pooja Bansal from Delhi, they have joined. They are again promoters of Natural Lifestyle and one of the followers. So they have something, they talked about something called a magical diet plan. They have cured tens of thousands of people of their diseases, BP, sugar, arthritis, like that, so many diseases in just a single camp. So it's a very straightforward approach. And we can follow it in day-to-day basis to maintain our health. So they are willing to come in the afternoon for 2 minutes to pledge their support. Then Ravi Kumar Reddy from Vipassana meditation again, he has talked in depth about how Vipassana can transform the mind to think in a very pure and positive manner. So I see a lot of young people here. it develops a concentration too. And it is a right concentration, it's not negative concentration. We can develop concentration in both ways. So the right concentration is what is developed by Vipassana. There are tremendous benefits, not just about concentration, but when we have the right positive concentration, we can apply it. Our goals itself change. Earlier, let's say 15 years back, or 20 years back, before I started Vipassana, practicing Vipassana, my goals are more oriented towards professional and personal development, material growth. Okay, I was like anybody else, trying to, buy this car, that car, buy this property, that property, and study in the best university, get a very good job, all these things. But as I started practicing this, so from within the change came, that, okay, what is the big deal? Anybody can do, anybody can acquire properties, anybody can grow materials, So this brought about transformation. So very beautifully, Ravi Kumar Reddy sir has explained. I was a student, by the way. So this Vipassana centers, they conduct camps in all the government schools today. They introduce the young students to Vipassana, and they are being guided to go in this path. So he again has, they are already doing what they are supposed to do, but he said he will be supporting whatever they want. Then finally we had Sister Radhika ji from Brahma College. Krishna Reddy has suggested them to be part of this. And she has also again very beautifully given several examples from spirituality. So to conclude on the spirituality section, so it is very important. I mean, I'm summarizing what everybody has said. It is very important that we have to address this issue of purity of thought process at the roots level, at the depth of the mind. If we are telling, okay, you don't do this, you don't do this, you think like this, you don't be angry, you be God-minded, you be loving. Okay, we listen to it. After some time, we forget it. Suddenly somebody says something, we are angry again. But when we are doing this, we are practicing technique like Vipassana, from the roots level, we get transformed. Okay? So we have to take advantage of the techniques. These are all Indian techniques. Gautama Buddha has teach this original technique. It is preserved in its original form without getting any impurity. Right? So we have to take advantage of these techniques. We have introduced these techniques in the education institutions. Similarly, health perspective. We had good speakers like Acharya Mohan Gupta ji and Kadavali. They have lifetime of experience and knowledge in how to be healthy. They are practicing it. So many tens of thousands are getting benefited. So why it shouldn't be in curriculum? Why we shouldn't make it part of our system, which we lost? So this is one action item that can happen. So in addition to whatever education, so-called education, which is preparing us for getting jobs, we should have something which will make us better human beings, and in turn it will definitely protect nature. Right. So that is the conclusion. And these are the action items.
You are the world kindness day.
Because you are so kind.
Kindness day, actually.
You have every word.
Kindness.
Kindness. దయాకర నేను.
అంటే ఇవాళ అంటే ప్రజలలో కనికరం అనేటటువంటి క్వాలిటీ లేకుండా పోతుంది. కనికరము
స్పేస్ ఫర్ యంగ్స్టర్స్ టు కమ్ అప్ విత్ ఐడియాస్ అండ్ వర్క్ అన్నమాట. ఈ కాన్ఫరెన్స్ ఆఫ్ పీపుల్ గురించి ఫస్ట్ టైం నాకు లక్ష్మారెడ్డి సార్ చెప్పినప్పుడు అన్నాను అనమాట. బికాస్ వీ హ్యావ్ బిల్ట్ ఓవర్ ఇయర్స్ సీజర్ని లాస్ట్ 10 yearsలో అలా బిల్డ్ చేశాము. ఇక్కడ నుంచి ముందుకు తీసుకెళ్ళడానికి వీ బిలీవ్ యంగ్స్టర్స్ షుడ్ టేక్ దిస్ ఫ్రమ్ హియర్ అన్నట్టు. కానీ ఆ రోజు ఫస్ట్ ఎలా ఎగ్జిక్యూట్ చేస్తే బాగుంటుంది అని అడిగాను. సో అప్పుడు టీమ్స్ కూడా అందరి స్టేక్ హోల్డర్స్, చిల్డ్రన్ టు యూత్, ఫార్మర్స్ అందరినీ ఎంగేజ్ చేస్తే బాగుంటుంది అనుకున్నాను. సో ఐఎమ్ గ్లాడ్ టు బి ఎ పార్ట్ ఆఫ్ ది జర్నీ అండ్ ఐఎమ్ వెరీ హ్యాపీ విత్ ద వే కాన్ఫరెన్స్ ఆఫ్ పీపుల్ హ్యాస్ హ్యాపెండ్. అండ్ ఇక్కడ మెయిన్గా అనుకున్నది యూత్ హ్యావ్ బికమ్ ద కాన్షియస్ కీపర్ ఆఫ్ ద గ్లోబ్ టుడే. ఇవాళ రోజున గ్రేటర్ కన్బర్గ్ అనే అమ్మాయి కావచ్చు, ఇక్కడ మన ఇండియాలో డీసీ అని ఒక అమ్మాయి కనబడవచ్చు. సో యూత్ ఆర్ ది గ్రేటెస్ట్ స్టేక్ హోల్డర్స్. ఒక ఫ్యామిలీలో కొన్ని తరాలు సంపాదిస్తే ఇప్పుడు వీ హ్యావ్ రీచ్డ్ సర్టన్ స్టేజ్ కదండి. సో అట్లాంటిది విత్ ఇన్ స్పాన్ ఆఫ్ 5 years ఉన్న ప్రాపర్టీస్ అంతా మనము అయిపోగొట్టేస్తే ఎలా? దట్స్ వాట్ లాస్ట్ కపుల్ ఆఫ్ జనరేషన్స్ డిడ్. ఎన్నో మిలీనియా నుంచి ఎవాల్వ్ అయిన న్యాచురల్ ఎకో సిస్టమ్ని, అట్ ద సేమ్ టైం మినరల్ రిసోర్స్ని కూడా. సో జస్ట్ మనం ఎంత నారో మైండెడ్నెస్ తోటి ఆ ఫోర్ సైట్ అండ్ ఫార్ సైట్ లేకుండా చేసామనేది అనిపించింది. అండ్ అక్కడ సాధారణంగా యూత్ రోల్ చాలా క్రిటికల్ అనిపించింది. ఎందుకంటే దే ఆర్ ద కీ స్టేక్ హోల్డర్స్. వై? బికాస్ దే ఆర్ గోయింగ్ టు ఫేస్ ద కాన్సిక్వెన్సెస్ ఆఫ్ ద క్లైమేట్ చేంజ్. బీట్ హెల్త్ ఇష్యూస్ కావచ్చు, డిప్లీటెడ్ న్యాచురల్ ఇష్యూస్ కావచ్చు. అట్లా ఈ డిజైన్ చేసినప్పుడు కూడా ఈ ప్యానల్ కూడా ఎలా డిజైన్ చేసామంటే వీ వాంటెడ్ టు ఫోకస్ ఆన్ సమ్మన్ హూ ఈస్ టేకింగ్ సమ్ యాక్షన్ యాజ్ అన్ ఇండివిజువల్ ఆన్ గ్రౌండ్, సమ్మన్ హూ ఈస్ కొలాబరేటెడ్ విత్ అన్ NGO అండ్ trying to work with the community, and someone who had partnerships across the globe. Yango and Cheppi, it's a global alliance for youngsters who are working for climate change. We reached out to them and we asked them to be part of the panel speaker. So we wanted to hear the voice of people from youngsters across the hierarchy. So Nishantana has been a great support in organizing this thing. So our first speaker was Dharmendra Anand. So he worked in a corporate company for 7 years. Afterwards he quit that and he started exploring the space of sustainability. Right now, he is a strong advocate of permaculture and he organizes multiple workshops. So one of the key points that he discussed about is, he says that there are 4 orders in society. One is plant order, the other is animal order, mineral order and human order. He explained about contribution of each and every order to each other. In what way plant order is contributing to the animal order, mineral order and human order. Likewise, how the animal order is contributing to every other thing. So when we explored this thing as a group, we realized that from every other 3 orders, human order is taking, consuming, but is hardly contributing anything back to it. So that's a question to all the collective conscious of us. So we can't just be consumers. Anything should be a give and take. So that is something which is a take home strong lesson from that. The next speaker is Pradeep. So personally I saw him transform his life after his Antarctica expedition. So from a corporate, when he was in a corporate company, he went for this Antarctica expedition and after coming back, everything that he discussed is that, అరే యార్ మనం గవర్నెన్స్ అవి మాట్లాడుతున్నాం కానీ బిగ్గర్ కంటెక్స్ట్ మనం మర్చిపోతున్నాము అండ్ ద లైఫ్ థ్రెడ్ ఏదైతే ఉందో అది పోయిన తర్వాత మనం మిగతా ఏం చేసి కూడా చాలా కష్టమే అని చెప్పి. హీ డజంట్ ఓన్ ఎనీ 4-wheeler or 2-wheeler. హీ యూజెస్ ఓన్లీ సైకిల్ అండ్ యూజెస్ ఓన్లీ పబ్లిక్ ట్రాన్స్పోర్ట్. హీ క్విట్ హిస్ సాఫ్ట్వేర్ జాబ్ అయ్యింది కూడా అండ్ హీ స్టార్టెడ్ వర్కింగ్ ఆన్ EVs, ఎలక్ట్రిక్ వెహికల్స్ కానీ అట్లా. అండ్ హీ స్టార్టెడ్ వర్కింగ్ విత్ గ్రాస్రూట్ కమ్యూనిటీస్, ట్రైబల్ ఏరియాస్. He believes that indigenous communities and the local people in the communities, they are the real custodians of the forest. So by working with them, we want to build a culture. And he explained his journey about how working with a small NGO, gradually building that networks and being a part of this global think tanks. And he was also part of the one of the contributors for the document that they released by called Conference of Youth. So it was wonderful listening to him. The next speaker was Jignasa. So she is from Rajasthan. Yes. So there she is working with an NGO and understanding her passion, they connected her to Yango, which is a global alliance of youngsters who are working for climate change. She is a wonderful artist. What she communicated is that each of us has some unique skill set, and in our own unique way we can add to this cause of climate change. If someone is good at singing, with their songs they can create this awareness. If someone is good at writing, they should use that as a platform for advocacy. She is a wonderful painter. She has come up with a couple of paintings which were like globally acknowledged too. And through art, she is looking forward to sensitize people. So culture, all these platforms, songs, these all play a lot of role in creating that awareness. And the final speaker of the panel was Selma. She is working with the communities in Algeria. She is closely working with the governments also. And one strong point that she communicated is that NGOs who are passionate should also find a way to work with the government. Because governments are the players who can impact things on scale. They have the resources, and one policy change will go a long way. So her solution was try to build the alliance of the NGOs which are committed for the cause, strengthen that voice, create these awareness drives, and see that government understands it and comes up with some action steps. And going ahead, how we envision to take this forward is that we want something like this Earth Center to be a part of every college. Every college and every university should have an ideal Earth Center. This should be a regular activity. If every college has an Earth Center, what activity they can take it within the college and also the surrounding community. And this we believe will be a game changer. And I believe the people who are in this hall has the resource base to take this and execute this in the states of at least Telugu states, starting with. This once in a while activity kaakunda, there should be a permanent chapter in schools and colleges. And I want to add one more point to what Upendra Reddy sir said. Just before COVID, Human Resource Development Ministry in the Union Government, they came up with a document called School Nutrition Garden. They suggested every school in India should have a small garden of their own. Every child should touch soil. Every child should experience a seed sprouting into a plant and grow. They suggested that if there is no soil available, at least they should do it in pots. But there should be an activity in every school. So I see no one but CGR taking up this responsibility and initiating this. And I must thank my fellow brothers and earth leaders. I said that, sir, I will volunteers in Pakistan. But CGR, by staying here, they have become earth leaders. I want Vijay, Lavan, Vinay, and Prashant to stand up. You guys did amazing. A conference of people was planned and initiated. They were here and they did all the communications part, setting up they gave the technical assistance and they really loved the place. And there are many other youngsters who want to come and join too. On behalf of all of them and also the youngsters who are part of our team, I want to make a promise here. We believe in power of partnerships, Shambi. As an individual, we can do a little, but as a team, we can do a lot more. And on behalf of all the youngsters, I want to promise that we are ready to shoulder the responsibility of building these partnerships within the organizations here and also the platforms which are abroad as well. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Yesterday when I was there in that webinar, I was very pleasantly surprised to listen to Kuchan. Subhana Garu, she is a chartered accountant, but you know the subject as on today, it is revolving around the performance of individual companies, okay, to what extent they are socially responsible. And what is their action plan, how are they going to reduce their carbon footprint, how are they going to be environment friendly. So there is a concept known as corporate social responsibility, which basically, it is not charity, it is basically, the corporates shall conduct their activities in a socially responsible way. And I was so very happy listening to Subhana Garu that I personally invited Madam to come, and in the days to come, definitely she will be a great asset, CGR, in our march towards sustainability. Madam, you wish to add anything?
Today no one knows what is climate change outside. They do not know what is happening in Glasgow, COP26. Secondly, thanks go to Professor who has been really, guiding us constantly, giving us inputs, and certainly we need people like Professor Purushottam Reddy garu always. So now coming to the webinars, I had an opportunity to organize 2 webinars. I was facilitating rather, and we have invited people, but in the last minute some of the speakers expressed their inability because of their schedule and all that. First one on 2nd November, role of local governance in climate change. In that we have invited some 7 people. Professor started with his inputs. Every time I listen to Professor, I get one point, at least one new point. మన తెలుగులో చెప్తుంటాం అట్లీస్ట్ 2 విషయాలు కొద్దిగా చెప్తుంటారు. ఐఎమ్ నాట్ flattering or saying anything, but he has that immense knowledge. So second one is we had one person by name Satyagopal Reddy who has a lot of experience from grassroots. He shared about his experience in the implementation of NGNR, AGS, how soil and moisture conservation works, then watershed works and other works, grain banks, how they helped in maintaining the ecosystem and all that. So third is Kalakonda Sarpanch Ravindra Reddy. That was very interesting because we invited many Sarpanches, but only 1 or 2 people turned up, but he spoke very well. I was really fascinated by listening to him, and I decided to take it forward further. I'll come to that, what are the takeaways. And he really touched upon all the pertinent points related to local governance and how to address the climate change. And lastly, I am the facilitating person. I also spoke about it. And if I look at the issues that are discussed in this particular session, the main things were taking a clue from the Article 243G of the Constitution, 73rd, 74th Constitutional Amendments, concomitant state laws, and the powers assigned to the rural local bodies, urban local bodies 29 and 18. We have discussed at a greater detailed fashion, and so many issues were discussed, and we decided that Panchayat should become vanguards of addressing climate change. They should be in the forefront. So, keeping Panchayats in the center stage, we have to address the climate change related issues. We have been talking about climate change in Glasgow and New Delhi, but ultimately it has to be implemented at the grassroots level. Therefore, we need to motivate, sensitize, and take the help of the Panchayats. Unless we do that, we will not be able to see any particular change. So, we need people. So, one is about manpower, stakeholders, who are there at the village level, who will be really able to help us in addressing the climate change. And second is about the climate finance that I will come to later regarding the resources. And we have discussed a lot of issues, and briefly I can sum up in saying that we have come to a unanimity in saying that we will come out with 4 action points. One is participatory climate action plan. One thing is participatory climate action plan from below. We need to undertake planning from below, involving all the stakeholders. I mean to say elected representatives, CBOs, CSOs, the self-help groups and people and other stakeholders. And that is one which is very important, a crucial thing. I can say crux of the matter. Planning has to be done from below for addressing the climate change, and they need to arrive at climate action. Second is that in line with the social audit committees in NGNR, AGS, we plan to constitute committees for climate action. Third one is we need to develop the interrelationships between panchayats and the central state governments. And fourth one is Panchayat should give a helping hand, become important stakeholders in the implementation of CSCs, that is centrally sponsored schemes implementation. So like this 4 or 5 points, and we have discussed, and one more important thing that we discussed, integration of local plans with that of national state level plans, NAPCC and SAPCC. So briefly these are the points that we arrived at, and it went on very well. And there were 2 more people we invited. Captain Karnataka was not able to attend, And second is Premchand, who was an activist who was not available on that day. Otherwise, it went on very well. These are some of the takeaways from the first webinar. And the way forward is, what we are planning is we want to form a network of all elected representatives because it will strengthen our hands. Let us form a network of elected representatives in our area, whether it is mandal, district or state or both the Telugu states. Give them a scope, give them a platform. Our center is a platform where they can come and sit, discuss, make use of this place. We can guide them from behind and they can take the agenda forward. Tomorrow, every April there will be a Panchayat Divas organized by the Government of India in New Delhi. We can take them there. We can give them scope to express their concerns. We can give them some kind of scope to explain their activities, work done in terms of addressing climate change and so on. So that is one thing, network formation, taking them to New Delhi and giving some kind of exposure, building their capacities and so on. That is the one important takeaway. We can take it forward. I am sure the CPR and professor will accept with me, appreciate it. And now coming to the second one, on 12th November yesterday we had one more webinar on climate finance. Though we invited half a dozen people, we were able to mobilize 3 people. Pawan Reddy from Delhi, he was caught up in a meeting with the NITI Aayog, he could not come. Second person, Mr. Sudhakar Nayak, he is with Income Tax Department and he had a video conference, he could not come. Otherwise, we have Professor, we have Ma'am Suguna, Chartered Accountant, and myself. 3 people we discussed about climate finance. And you all know that there were 5 things which were discussed in Glasgow. Of all the 5 things, critical one is climate finance. Unless there is money, nothing can be done. We need people, we need money. First one is about manpower, resources, stakeholders, that is Panchayat at the grassroots level. Second one is critical resource, that is climate finance. So we began with very good introduction and inputs by our professor. Then Ma'am Suguna has introduced a new concept called social impact valuation apart from commercial value. And the third one is myself, I spoke about purely from economist perspective. And it went on very well. We would like to give a small note to Director Earth Center what we discussed because it was very abstract and sometimes it will go over the heads. That's why I am not able to really give you now. But basically how to mobilize. There were 4 issues we discussed threadbare. One is the definition part. What is climate finance? Even the Glasgow was not able to define what is climate finance, what it forms, what it constitutes. Secondly, the source of finance. Is it public, private and other sources? And third one is methodology. There were some methodological problems faced by those people, higher authorities in accounting rules. Now, what should be the climate finance? What is not climate finance? In that case, they were not able to really come up with some clarity. Finally, commitments made by different countries. Please.
Is there any topic discussed on that about carbon credits?
Yes, we touched upon it, but this is purely on climate finance. Yeah. Yes. So, last one is commitments by the developed countries and developing countries, and what are their commitments, how to meet them, what is the deadline, all that we discussed about it. The way forward is we plan to have a couple of brainstorming sessions in the near future and invite people related, concerned people and have brainstorming sessions, at least 2 to 3. Bring out a policy note which will be submitted to the Government of India, emphasizing the need for constituting a national level commission on climate change, which was pronounced in the Glasgow. But it will take time. But we need to bring about some kind of pressure on the Government of India so that they can really immediately constitute and its action will begin. Why this? Because countries like Indonesia and Bangladesh, they have created their own fund. We are not able to create our own fund at a national level. We have been talking about multilateral channels, bilateral channels, DFI, private finance. But what about our own contribution? As a Government of India, what is it that we need to keep some amount aside and spend it for climate action, which is not really happening. Therefore, this National Commission on Climate Change has to be constituted immediately with relevant people, and for which we will prepare a note and we will submit to the Government of India. That is to begin with in a small way regarding climate finance. There are a couple of other ideas also. They need to be concretized, and these are the two webinars that I facilitated. I think that's all I can. Thank you so much.
Two very important points.
This climate change and children education is a very, very pertinent item. Though it was not very much reflected in the Glasgow meeting. I asked Sai Bhaskar, so what are the recommendations of Glasgow conference on, especially on children education and climate change? He said that no, sir, that agenda was not there actually. But we only, because we only actually formulated this. So this is really very much pertinent. There are three fundamental questions. How this climate change is related to the education? If at all it is related, how we have to actually deal it? This is the second question. How? And who will do it? This is. And the fourth question is, what are the facilitating factors now to integrate these climate-related factors into the curriculum and pedagogy from various stages? These are the fundamental things. The basic thing is that the education to actually sensitize the children. Sensitize. Now, if you see the curriculum, the way the curriculum is being transferred, taught to the children is only examination oriented, information oriented. It is not inculcating any sensitivity, any feeling aspect. From Hudaya Spandana antam. అటువంటి రిలేషన్ అనేటటువంటిది పిల్లలకు డెవలప్ చేస్తాము. పిల్లలు దే ఆర్ వెరీ మచ్ stressful because of this type of information oriented, memory oriented curriculum. Something is not going well now. It is not healthy also now. There is a great crisis in education. This is one aspect. And whoever the speakers are there on that day, I am being the moderator, and Leela Lakshma Reddy Madam is there, and she actually shared now, because global warming is there, the earth is heating, even human body also it is heating down. The first significant sign is that if you are fever means you are not all right. So earth is also it's not all right, and now Mother Earth got fever now. It is the responsibility of all. And being the chairman of CGR, and they planted millions of trees, and they actually worked hand in hand with the teachers and the students. And also Eastern Ghats report also they actually worked on that. So some initiatives they have taken as a part of this to protect this. The next speaker is Mr. Mehulji. He is a Gurukul Acharya, and he is very much to how to make nature, how to connect the education to the nature. He spoke a lot on that. Advaita Siddhantam means we are not different from the nature, and the plants and all species are also having the life. And this type of sensitivity need to be created among the children. It is only possible when children are exposed to the nature. So how our education is connect to the nature. This is first part. The second part, what he told is that your ancient wisdom also. There is a much reverence to the nature, isn't it? Much reverence to the water sources and trees and plants, and a lot of intellectual brain is there behind that activity. So that need to be actually brought forward in the present curriculum and make children very much exposed to the nature what it was. The next speaker is Mr. Gonaredi. Gonaredi is actually a leader of professional organization, teacher professional organizations. And what he told is that because of the Supreme Court judgment, environmental education curriculum has been introduced into school and college levels also. It is only it's not made compulsory, but it is only at information level. One question will come on environmental education in every exam. So it doesn't make any sense. There is no much use of the integrating. It's not integrated very much. Okay, it is added an addendum. It is not become a part of the entire curriculum what you said. And other thing is that there are a lot of things going on outside on water percolation pits and recharging and some organic farming. So let children take outside your four walls and let children observe. When they observe, actually they will be sensitized. And even research also says that if children are engaged in the productive work, the intellectual, they develop also. So there is a close relation between what you do and how your brain actually intellectually they will develop. So this is the what he told, and Mr. Madhav Reddy is the from Vande Mataram Foundation, and he said that now entire education is only theory. There is no much practice in it. Once they come out from education, they will forget everything and they will be good for nothing. And Aksharvanam being they are imparting the holistic education. There is cooking is there is organic farming is there is cattle rearing work is there, and children built a lake also, a tank also. So they are doing every work, and they are actually they are getting every type of knowledge, and they are being sensitized also. And he proposed that in every week, whether in schools or colleges, one day must be towards exposure to the nature. So this must be made mandatory in the school and the higher education curriculum. Next, Ankita and Arush Das. Okay, Ankita, what she says that now children are the biggest stakeholders, what she says. Okay, and they are the great change makers also. So because of that, it is very important subject, and you have to focus on children education, sensitizing it on nature and all these things. And two children from Aksharvanam, and they shared their practices, how they are doing all the activities without any other persons. And now, what are the implications? What actually, how we have to take it to see how it is relevant actually. Now, if you see the 50% of Indian population is below 25 years. If you take school education population 0 to 14, 15 population, 37% of population is the school going children. Below 18, it is 41%. So more and more population is there. It is really right time now how we actually sensitize them. And even if you examine the curriculum of present, there are again all these are there in the present curriculum. There is water, there are rivers, there is soil, there is agriculture, isn't it? And other social poverty, equity, there are so many, but everything is information mode and examination oriented. It's not going to much sensitize them. So the pedagogy also, how actually, because education ultimately, see, it's not the information that teacher do. Teacher inspires them so that they will get fascinated to pursue education to higher levels. But that really that is not taking place. The pedagogy, the way you introduce, isn't it? So that is not actually there. So all these topics which are there, not environmentally oriented, not ecosystem biodiversity oriented. All topics are there, but we have to change that curriculum into it and change the mindset of the teachers also. Teachers should have some sort of reverence, some sort of passion towards this thing. So curriculum and pedagogy need to be connected to the nature and connected to the community also. Everything is happening in the four walls, years together. 10, 15 years they will spend time on the four walls, isn't it? Without having any sensitivity to the community, neither community nor the nature also. So these things, and some international days are there now. International days on biodiversity, on ecology, on ozone layer, and like this, global warming, climate change. All these international years must be celebrated in the schools and colleges, giving 1 or 2 days and inviting the people and some sort of debates and discussions, and some sort of projects like that. So projects also need to be given. Now there is a facilitating factor also now to take this forward. One facilitating factor is the National Education Policy 2020 says that to integrate all these diseases into the existing curriculum. And the second is that the global scenario, the global understanding on education is changing. It is not no more information oriented, no more memorization oriented. It is only practice based. Projects are the projects and case studies, and exploration are the pedagogical aspects of the process of education now. So now it is a right time how we take it to outside in the name of projects and case studies and explorations. So that is one of the facilitating factors now. And the third thing is that under the chairmanship of Purushottam Reddy, we are now working on the SDGs. So how these SDGs can be integrated into the school education. So whatever may be the source material in the form of a source book, actually we will develop that material. So that will be helpful for this. So the next thing is that under implementation. So we have to now, because of this, keeping in view of this COP 26 day and our initiation, we have to write a letter to the Government of India, Secretary of Education or Ministers also, the importance of climate education into the existing curriculum and pedagogical aspects. So, because all states also now, they are now changing, taking up the curricular reforms, changing the textbooks and the examination, changing reforms also. And it is the right time now to write a letter to the national government and even the state government also to focus on climate education if we really want to survive life on this earth. So these are some of the implications of this, these things. Thank you.
Raja has summed up so